Welcome to the channel. Today, we delve into the comprehensive mechanism that shaped India's economy for over 6 decades, the 5-year plans, an ambitious, state-led program designed to catapult a newly independent nation onto the path of rapid growth and social justice. This saga of centralized planning, which governed resource allocation and development strategy from 1951 to 2017, holds the key to understanding India's economic trajectory. The fundamental idea for planning derived its objectives and social premises from the Directive Principles of state policy enshrined in the Constitution. The goals articulated were aimed at realizing a socio-economic order based on justice and equality. Long before formal planning began, intellectual groundwork was laid, notably by Sir Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, who published Planned Economy for India in 1934, advocating shifting attention from agriculture toward industrialization to increase employment. The Indian National Congress, chaired by Jawaharlal Nehru, set up the National Planning Committee in 1938. Even India's top industrialists supported this vision through the Bombay Plan in 1944, urging the state to undertake major initiatives in economic and industrial investment based on the assumption that the plan could only be executed by an independent national government. In 1950, formal preparations began. On the recommendation of the Advisory Planning Board constituted in 1946, the Planning Commission was established in March 1950 by an executive cabinet resolution rather than an act of parliament. It functioned as an extra-constitutional, non-statutory advisory body, with the Prime Minister serving as its chairperson. India adopted this framework from the former Soviet Union, the pioneer in national planning. The chosen economic model was the mixed economy, integrating the best features of capitalist and socialist systems, viewing the public and private sectors as complementary in the national developmental effort. The ambitious 4 major goals of India's planning system were: growth, referring to the increased capacity to produce goods and services; modernization, incorporating new ideas and technology; self-reliance, minimizing dependence on foreign aid; and equity, ensuring reduction in inequality. The journey began with the first 5-year plan 1951 to 56. This plan focused heavily on agriculture, irrigation, and power projects, addressing immediate crises stemming from inflation, refugee influx, and severe food shortages. It operated under the Harrod Domar growth model. K.N. Raj, a young economist involved in drafting the plan, argued for India to hasten slowly to avoid endangering democracy. The overall growth rate during this period was roughly 3.7% per annum. Cooperation and the cooperative sector were emphasized starting from this first plan. The defining moment came with the second 5-year plan 1956 to 61, which formalized the development strategy emphasizing rapid industrialization and the establishment of basic and heavy industries. This plan, often associated with the strategy developed by Professor P.C. Mahalanobis, sought to promote a socialistic pattern of society. Early development strategy focused on raising savings and investment rates, dominance of state intervention, import substitution, and domestic manufacture of capital goods. The third 5-year plan 1961 to 66 aimed to achieve a self-generating and self-reliant economy, maintaining focus on both heavy industrialization and food production. However, this plan was severely hampered by conflicts in 1962 and 1965, necessitating a shift in resource allocation toward defense development. The ensuing political and financial crisis, marked by low morale, successive severe droughts, and devaluation of currency, forced the implementation of 3 annual plans 1966 to 69. This period was famously, though unofficially, dubbed the plan holiday by critics, representing a discontinuity in the planned 5-year sequence. It was during this time that the new agricultural strategy, including the widespread distribution of high-yielding variety seeds under the Green Revolution, was implemented. The fifth 5-year plan 1974 to 79 was formulated during severe inflationary pressures, and its major objectives explicitly included the removal of poverty and the attainment of self-reliance. This plan was dramatically cut short by 1 year by the Janata government, who subsequently introduced the short-lived rolling plan for 1978 to 83, which was abandoned in 1980. By the end of the 1970s, many critics felt that the model chosen by India was not delivering and required modification. However, policymakers refused to recognize this critique, even as China began major reforms around the same time. The Sixth Five-Year Plan 1980-85 focused on modernization, increasing national income, and ensuring a continuous decrease in unemployment and poverty, adopting the slogan, "Garibi Hatao." It also saw a shift in focus towards infrastructure. The Seventh Five-Year Plan 1985-90 focused on employment opportunities and productivity, achieved an average GDP growth rate of 5.6%, exceeding the target. However, this growth came at the cost of bitter fiscal imbalances. The economic and political turbulence of the early 1990s led to the delay of the Eighth Plan, resulting in two more annual plans 1990-92. Finally, the Eighth Five-Year Plan 1992-97 marked a fundamental strategic departure by adopting the new policy of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, LPG. This reform agenda shifted the planning style from the centralized imperative planning, followed until the Seventh Plan, to indicative planning, where the government acts primarily as a facilitator rather than a central director. In later iterations, the nature of planning evolved. The 10th Five-Year Plan 2002-07 aimed to achieve an 8% growth rate of GDP and, for the first time, set monitorable targets for 11 specific indicators for both the center and the states. The 12th Five-Year Plan 2012-17, which adopted the theme of faster, more inclusive and sustainable growth, became the last of the five-year plans. The Planning Commission and its five-year plans undoubtedly led to significant economic and social development. This period laid the foundations for heavy industry, the capital goods sector, and institutions of higher learning. The industrial base became diversified, moving beyond cotton and jute textiles. India achieved self-sufficiency in food production due to the Green Revolution. India's national income grew at impressive rates, with average growth increasing from roughly 3.5% during 1950 to 1970 to about 5.5% after the 1990s, and there was a significant rise in savings and investment rates. Despite these successes, the FYPs faced major criticisms and limitations. Critics argued that the plans were often bureaucratic, lacking structural mechanisms and suffering from inefficient allocation of resources. The plans failed to fully eliminate poverty and inequality, and the problem of unemployment persisted. This was partly because the planning model was predominantly centralized or a top-down approach, which could be inappropriate for a diverse country, sometimes even described as a one-size-fits-all approach. This central planning structure, characteristic of the initial decades of post-independence development, was formally ended in 2015. The then Prime Minister's announcement to abolish the Planning Commission was considered by some critics as defying reasoning and a lobotomy of a vital organ of the state. The Planning Commission was replaced by the NITI Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India, in January 2015. This move was rationalized as a necessary shift from centralized control toward a more dynamic policy-making process that promotes cooperative federalism and a bottom-up approach, accommodating diverse state needs. NITI Aayog strategy framework involves replacing the FYPs with a 15-year vision document, perspective plan, a 7-year strategy, and a 3-year action agenda. This new structure allows for better alignment with the country's evolving reality. The current long-term development objective is the Vision India at 2047 plan, which aims to transform the country into a developed nation with a $30 trillion economy by the 100th anniversary of independence. This comprehensive agenda, which is replacing the five-year plans, involves broad deregulation, building a robust manufacturing base, ensuring energy security, and focusing on a tripartite collaboration between the government, the private sector, and academia. Achieving this transition requires the current generation to undertake the responsibility over the next 25 years. While the system of rigid five-year plans has been abandoned, the underlying goal of integrated national progress towards set goals remains alive in the NITI Aayog's long-term vision.